My girlfriend of 3 years looked me in the eye and said her ex texted, and she might give him another chance. I told her to follow her heart. Then I picked up my phone, called her best friend who'd had a secret crush on me for years, and took her on a date to my girlfriend's absolute favorite restaurant. Her journey of self-discovery ended the second she saw her bestie's Instagram story from our table. I'm sitting here, typing this out while watching my now ex-girlfriend, Fiona, have a complete and total meltdown in our apartment complex's group chat. It's a spectacular mushroom cloud of angry emojis, all caps accusations, and frantic, misspelled demands for someone to let her into the building. It's a beautiful sight, really. But to understand the beauty of this chaos, we need to rewind a bit. Fiona and I were a thing for 3 years. A good thing, I thought. We met at a mutual friend's summer barbecue, one of those cliché, sun-drenched afternoons that feel like the beginning of a movie. We hit it off instantly, a spark of easy conversation and shared laughter that felt rare and electric. 18 months later, we were moving in together, merging our lives, our books, our mismatched coffee mugs. Our relationship was comfortable, stable. I was the rock, and she was the whirlwind. I loved her energy, her passion, her ability to make any mundane Tuesday feel like an adventure. I was all in. So all in fact, that a beautiful, modest diamond ring was currently nestled in a velvet box in the back of my sock drawer. I'd already had the conversation with her dad, a nerve-wracking but ultimately wonderful chat that ended with a firm handshake and his blessing. I was planning to propose next month on the anniversary of that barbecue where we first met. I had the whole thing mapped out. Then, 2 weeks ago, the first tremor hit. We were curled up on the couch, halfway through an episode of some generic crime drama on Netflix, when her phone buzzed on the coffee table. She glanced at the screen, and the change was instantaneous. The relaxed, easy smile she'd been wearing vanished, replaced by a complex cocktail of shock, anxiety, and something else I couldn't quite name. "Everything okay?" I asked, pausing the show. She didn't look at me. Her eyes were glued to her phone. "It's Dustin," she said, her voice a near whisper. The name hit me like a physical blow. Dustin, the ghost of boyfriend's past. The ex she had dated for 5 long years before I came into the picture. Dustin, the aspiring musician, who had unceremoniously dumped her via a 2-paragraph email so he could focus on his art. Dustin, the source of the tears I had patiently wiped away for the first 6 months of our own relationship. The phantom I thought we had finally vanquished. "What does he want?" I asked, my own voice betraying a tension I was desperately trying to hide. She was silent for a full minute, her thumb scrolling through what must have been a novel-length text. "He says he made a mistake," she finally said, her eyes still on the screen. "He says he's been in therapy, and he realizes I was the one that got away. He wants to meet up." My stomach, which had been a comfortable knot of contentment, dropped into a cold, dark pit. The air in the room grew thick and heavy. "He wants to meet up for closure," she added, as if the word itself were a magic incantation that made everything okay. Closure? After 3 years with me, she needed closure from the man who broke her heart and disappeared. She finally put her phone down, face down on the table, and turned to me. Her expression was one of tortured sincerity. "Look," she said, "I'm just being honest with you. A part of me, a small part, has always wondered what would have happened if he hadn't left. We had plans, you know? A whole future mapped out. And now he's showing up and saying all the things I desperately wanted to hear back then. My own plans, the ones involving a velvet box and a lifetime commitment, seemed to mock me from the sock drawer. So what about our plans, Fiona?" The question hung between us, fragile and heavy. I think I need to explore this," she said, avoiding my eyes. "Maybe I should give him another chance. I feel like I owe it to my younger self to know for sure." I sat there, stunned into silence. 3 years. 3 years of unwavering support. I held her hand through her mother's cancer scare, staying up all night, researching treatments, and making her soup. I was her financial and emotional safety net when she was laid off from her job, assuring her that we would be fine and that her talent was undeniable. I threw her a surprise party with all her friends and family when she finally landed her dream job in marketing. I had been her partner, her cheerleader, her constant. And now, she was willing to throw all of that away for a ghost who had abandoned her without a second thought. My heart, which had been pounding with anxiety, suddenly settled into a slow, cold, and steady rhythm. The hurt was still there, a sharp, searing pain, but something else was crystallizing around it. Clarity. I looked at her, at this woman I thought I knew inside and out, and made a decision. "Follow your heart, Fiona," I said, my voice quiet but firm. She looked up, genuinely surprised by my lack of protest. That's it? You're not going to fight for me. You just told me you want to give your ex another chance. I replied, the logic of it all feeling stark and simple. What, exactly, is there for me to fight for? A flash of anger crossed her face. I expected more from you. And I said, standing up from the couch, expected loyalty from you. She met Dustin that Friday. She came home at 1 in the morning, her lipstick smeared, her hair a mess, and reeking of a cheap cologne I didn't recognize and stale whiskey. We just talked, she insisted, her eyes not quite meeting mine. Right? Just talked. The week that followed was a masterclass in disrespect. Fiona was in constant contact with Dustin, and she made zero effort to hide it. She'd giggle at her phone during our now silent dinners, her thumbs flying across the screen. She'd take long, whispered phone calls in the bathroom with the water running, as if that somehow made it less obvious. She was, for all intents and purposes, actively dating another man while still living in my apartment, sleeping in our bed, and using the Wi-Fi I paid for. She insisted she needed time to figure things out, which was apparently code for let me keep my comfortable living situation while I test drive my old model. But here's the funny thing about secrets. They're rarely as secret as we think. What Fiona didn't know was that her own best friend, Chloe, had been harboring a not-so-secret crush on me since the day we met. Chloe had confessed this to me herself in a moment of drunken, giggling honesty at Fiona's birthday party last year. You're a good one, she'd slurred, patting my arm. She's so lucky. If she ever messes up, I'm calling dibs. She'd insisted she would never act on it, that their friendship was too important, sisters before misters, and all that. I had laughed it off at the time, flattered but dismissive. It was just the wine talking. Yesterday, Chloe texted me. Heard about the Dustin situation. Just wanted to see if you're doing okay. I replied honestly. Managing. It's weird. She's basically dating him while still living here. Her response was immediate. That's trash behavior. Seriously, you deserve so much better than that. Thanks, Chloe. I appreciate that. An idea, a bold, reckless, and beautiful idea, began to bloom in my mind. I typed out the next text before I could second-guess myself. Hey, random question. Are you free for dinner on Thursday night? The 3 little dots indicating she was typing appeared and disappeared several times. The pause was long and pregnant. Are you sure about this? Very sure. I typed back. Fiona made her choice. I think it's time I started making mine. Another pause. Then, okay. Where? I smiled. Rosemary's. 7 o'clock. Rosemary's. The name was a tactical strike. It was Fiona's absolute, hands down, favorite restaurant in the entire city. It was the place we went for every anniversary, every birthday, every minor celebration. It was the place she meticulously documented on her Instagram, tagging the location, the food, the decor. It was the place where the waitstaff knew us by name, where they knew our favorite wine, where they always saved us our favorite table. Chloe's reply came back instantly. That's bold. That's the point, I wrote. Thursday evening arrived. At 6 o'clock sharp, Fiona breezed out of the apartment, humming to herself, dressed for a date with Dustin. At 6:30, I picked up Chloe. She walked out of her building, and my breath caught in my throat. She looked absolutely incredible. She was wearing a stunning red dress that I'd never seen before, with elegant heels and her hair styled in soft waves. She was a vision. You're sure about this? She asked as she slid into the passenger seat. Her voice a mix of excitement and apprehension. Never been more sure about anything in my life, I said, and I meant it. We arrived at Rosemary's, and Monica, our usual waitress, did a visible double take as we walked in. Mr. J, she said, her professional smile faltering for a second. No Fiona tonight? Not tonight. Monica, I said, smiling warmly. This is my friend, Chloe. Monica's eyes widened for a fraction of a second before her training kicked in. She gave Chloe a polite nod and led us to our usual table, the coveted spot by the window, the one Fiona always insisted on. The first hour of our date was a revelation. Chloe and I were having a genuinely fantastic time. She was sharp, witty, and incredibly funny. She asked thoughtful questions about my work, a subject Fiona usually scrolled through her phone during, and she actually listened to the answers. We laughed until our sides hurt. It felt easy, natural. It felt like breathing after being underwater for a long, long time. Halfway through our appetizers, as Chloe was telling a hilarious story about a disastrous work presentation, my phone, which I placed face up on the table, suddenly exploded with a barrage of notifications. They were all from Fiona. Are you serious right now? Chloe just posted an Instagram story from Rosemary's. From our table. You're there with my best friend? At our place. I turned the phone around and showed Chloe. A slow, wicked grin spread across her face. She raised her wine glass. To new beginnings, she said, her eyes sparkling. I clinked my glass against hers. To new beginnings. I got home at 10 o'clock, feeling lighter and happier than I had in months. The feeling evaporated the second I walked through the door. Fiona was in the living room, pacing back and forth like a caged tiger. And she wasn't alone. Lounging on my couch, looking smugly at home, was Dustin. How dare you? Fiona shrieked the moment she saw me. How dare I what? I asked, calmly setting my keys on the counter. Take Chloe to our place. It's a public restaurant, Fiona, I said, my voice level. And besides, you were busy. With him. I nodded my head toward Dustin. Dustin, who looked exactly as pathetic as I had imagined, with his carefully messy man bun and a vintage band t-shirt for a band that probably broke up before he was born, decided to chime in. Bro, that's cold, he said, shaking his head. I ignored him and looked at Fiona. I don't remember inviting him into my home. It's my home too, she shot back. Actually, I said, leaning against the counter, it's not. My name is on the lease. You're just a resident, on a month-to-month basis. The color drained from her face. You can't be serious. Dead serious. You want to explore your unresolved feelings for your ex? Great. I support that. But you won't be doing it while living in my apartment on my dime. Where am I supposed to go? She wailed. Maybe Dustin has space, I suggested innocently. Oh wait, don't you still live with your mom, Dustin? The man-bun musician looked deeply offended. I'm between places right now. My music is about to take off. Right. Well, you two can figure that out together. Fiona, you have 30 days notice to vacate, effective tomorrow morning. I'll email you the official document. You're kicking me out over one dinner with Chloe? She screeched, her voice reaching a new, hysterical pitch. No, I corrected her. I'm kicking you out because you are actively dating another man while living in my apartment, eating my food, and using my utilities. It's called having self-respect. You should try it sometime. The anger suddenly melted away, replaced by a torrent of crocodile tears. Baby, please, she sobbed, reaching for my hand. Chloe means nothing. Dustin and I are just reconnecting. Reconnect on your own time, in your own place, I said, pulling my hand away. Was it just reconnecting last Friday when you came home with your hair a mess and smelling like his cheap cologne? That's not, we just kissed. Once. Cool, I said. Go kiss him at his mom's house. Dustin, to his credit, tried to play the hero, puffing out his chest and stepping towards me. Listen, man, get out of my apartment, I said, my voice dangerously low, before I call the police and have you removed for trespassing. They left, but not before Fiona delivered one last parting shot. You're going to regret this. Chloe is just using you to get back at me. Funny, I called after her as she stormed down the hall. That's exactly what it looks like you're doing with me and Dustin. The days that followed were a masterclass in entitled, desperate behavior from Fiona. First, she tried to play armchair lawyer, sending me a poorly researched article about squatters' rights in our state. I forwarded it to my actual lawyer friend, who replied with a single text. LOL. She's not on the primary lease. You gave proper written notice. She's cooked. When legal threats failed, she pivoted to emotional manipulation. Her Instagram became a shrine to our past relationship, with old photos of us captioned with passive-aggressive nonsense like, remember when promises meant something, and 3 years thrown away for a petty act of revenge. Her mother called me, her voice a mixture of confusion and concern. What's this I hear about you evicting my daughter? She's dating her ex-boyfriend while living in my apartment, Mrs. T, I explained calmly. She says you're dating her best friend just to spite her. I'm dating Chloe because Chloe actually wants to be with me and has the decency to be single while doing so. Unlike your daughter. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then a heavy sigh. Fiona always did have a problem with wanting what she couldn't have. I'm so sorry you're going through this, honey. A plot twist I hadn't expected. Even her own mother was on my side. On Wednesday, I came home from work to find several of my belongings missing. My Xbox, my high-end coffee maker, my air fryer, and bizarrely every single one of my phone chargers. I texted Fiona, return my property by the end of the day, or I'm filing a police report for theft. Her reply was instant. What property? Those were our things. I sent her back photos of the receipts, all of which were clearly in my name and dated before she even moved in. An hour later, all my items were dumped unceremoniously on my doorstep. My Xbox now sported a deep, vindictive scratch across the casing. Real mature. The next night, Chloe and I went to a concert at a small local venue. We were having a genuinely good time, posting a few stories, when Fiona showed up with Dustin in tow, a transparent and pathetic attempt to run into us. "Fancy seeing you here," she said, her voice dripping with fake nonchalance. "It's a free country," I replied, not giving her the reaction she craved. Her eyes, however, were fixed on Chloe, and they were burning with pure, unadulterated hatred. "I can't believe you would do this to me," she hissed. "We're supposed to be best friends." Chloe corrected her, her voice calm and steady. "We were best friends until you decided to throw away a good man for the loser who already abandoned you once. You were just waiting for your chance, weren't you?" Fiona spat, always hanging around, laughing a little too hard at his jokes, pretending to be so supportive. "I was supportive of your relationship, Fiona," Chloe said, her patience clearly wearing thin. "Right up until the moment you decided to end it by trying to monkey branch back to your past." It was at this point that Dustin, sensing the tide was turning against them, tried to intervene. "Babe, let's just go," he whined, tugging on her arm. "Don't babe me," Fiona snapped, rounding on him. "This is all your fault." "My fault?" Dustin asked, looking genuinely confused. "You're the one who contacted me." Oh, this was getting interesting. I leaned against the bar. "She contacted you?" I asked, looking directly at Dustin. He seemed bewildered by the whole situation. "Yeah, like a month ago. Slid into my DMs, said she was thinking about me a lot." Fiona's face went pale. "That's not. You texted me first. After you liked 20 of my old Instagram photos at 3 in the morning and posted that obscure indie song we used to listen to on your story." Dustin retorted. I took it as a sign. I looked over at Chloe, who was biting her lip to keep from laughing. Fiona had engineered this entire disaster, and now she was furious that it had backfired so spectacularly. The escalation continued. On Monday, my landlord called. Fiona had reported a massive water leak in my apartment. I was at that very moment standing in my perfectly dry bathroom. On Tuesday, she launched a smear campaign, telling our mutual friends that I was a controlling, abusive narcissist. This backfired when our friend Jake, who had literally crashed on our couch drunk just a month prior, called her out on her lies. Then she made her boldest move yet. An Instagram post of her and Dustin, captioned, "Sometimes you have to lose yourself to find your soulmate." 3 years of settling taught me what real love isn't. The comment section was a bloodbath. "Girl, didn't you cheat on him?" Team J. She deleted it within an hour, but the screenshots were already making the rounds. The grand finale of her apartment drama came on Wednesday. I came home to find my door lock had been filled with superglue. I called a locksmith and then checked the footage from a security camera I'd installed after the Xbox incident. There she was, clear as day, squeezing a tube of superglue into the lock. I sent her the video. Her response, "Prove it's me." My reply, "It's literally HD footage of your face." I filed another police report. This time, they issued her a formal warning to stay away from the property. Finally, the 30 days were up. Move-out day. She arrived with Dustin in a U-Haul. I had all her belongings neatly packed and waiting in the living room. "Where's my grandmother's vase?" she demanded, marching in. "You mean my blue vase that I bought at HomeGoods 2 years ago? It's on my kitchen counter where it belongs." She proceeded to lay claim to half the items in my apartment: the TV I bought before we met, the couch my parents gave me as a housewarming gift. She even tried to take my grandmother's handwritten cookbook. Dustin was utterly useless, just standing in the corner scrolling through his phone. The climax came when Chloe arrived, bringing me lunch. Fiona lost it completely. "You brought her here?" "Now. She brought me lunch," I said, because she's a thoughtful person. It was then that Chloe finally confronted her. "Fiona, I was your friend," she said, her voice filled with a sad finality. "I listened to you for months complain about how boring and predictable your life was, how you missed the excitement of Dustin. You got what you wanted. You have Dustin and all his excitement. Now leave this good man alone. You've been planning this all along." Fiona sobbed. "No, you planned this when you decided to treat your boyfriend like a backup plan," Chloe replied. "I just decided I wasn't going to stand by and watch you get away with it." Dustin, at that moment, chose to speak. "Babe, can we just go? My mom's making dinner." The look of pure, unadulterated horror on Fiona's face was a masterpiece. She had thrown away a man who was ready to marry her for a musician who still lived with his mother. It's been 3 weeks since she moved out, and the karma has been swift and brutal. Fiona is, indeed, living with Dustin at his mom's house, where they are reportedly treated like teenage tenants, complete with a curfew and a chore wheel. Dustin's big music career taking off has amounted to a few unpaid gigs at coffee shops, gigs that Fiona has to drive him to because he lost his license over unpaid parking tickets. As for that engagement ring, I returned it. Chloe and I used the money to take a 2-week vacation to Costa Rica. We posted lots of photos. Fiona viewed every single one. While we were gone, she made one last, desperate play. She posted on Facebook that she was pregnant, that I was the father, and that she would be seeking child support. I commented publicly on the post. Interesting, since we haven't been intimate in over 2 months. Also, I had a vasectomy last year. You might want to have a chat with Dustin. Good luck. She deleted the post within minutes. Dustin, upon learning of the fake pregnancy post, dumped her on the spot. She showed up at my door a few days ago, crying, begging for a second chance. I messed up, she sobbed. Dustin was a mistake. You said to follow my heart, I reminded her. And you did, she cried. Right to another man's bed while living in my house. I finished for her. Chloe, who had been inside, came to the door. No, Fiona, she said, stepping out to stand beside me. I didn't want what you had. I wanted someone who wouldn't throw me away the second an ex texted. And I found him. Fiona left, defeated. The last I heard, she's working 2 jobs to afford rent at Dustin's mom's house, even though they're broken up. She has nowhere else to go. Chloe and I are taking things slow, but it feels right. It feels real. It feels like after 3 years of settling, I finally know what real love is.